If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Cody Klein. I run a company called commercialroofer.com, and today we're going to talk about how to grow your commercial division. And I'm really excited to be here because essentially what I have laid out for you guys is we're going to talk about how to generate the opportunities, which is obviously the tip of the sword. But then we're also going to break into what I feel like is the more important piece, is because it's like you guys can go pay any one of these vendors to generate opportunities, to create leads. But it's like, how do we convert those opportunities in the commercial space without the long sales cycle, without having to jump over the barriers of the gatekeepers, keeping us from the decision makers and all of that good stuff. And the third piece of what we're going to talk about today is essentially what we call the service model, or a compounding business model. And we'll get into the nitty gritty, okay? So essentially when I laid out all of the slides for you guys today, I tried to come from the perspective or the paradigm that I wanted to, whether you're just getting rocking and rolling and just trying to get the commercial division off the ground, or if you've been in commercial for 30 some odd years and maybe you've even been doing service and maintenance for that amount of time, I'm going to show you how to position the service and maintenance a little bit different so that you can continue to grow it instead of dragging the service department around like a necessary anchor, okay? And the last thing I'll say, actually I need that clicker if I could snag that from you. Thank you, my man. Now the last thing I'll say before we jump into the actual presentation itself is the reason we're actually doing this. And so for those of you guys that have no idea who I am, maybe this is the first time you've ever heard me talk, maybe you've never seen our stuff on social media or in the Commercial Roofer University, I had my own roofing company. So I got out of the military in 2012. I installed low slope standing seam metal roof systems for a couple years, got into the sales department, and of course, like every other sales guy, I thought I could do it better. So I started what's a company that was called Jag Roofing and Sheet Metal out of Indianapolis. And there's some guys in here that were a part of a roll-up with me. And we had, I believe we ended up with 19 companies, and I was one of the companies at the tail end of the roll-up. I was on the first wave of what wasn't considered private equity in the beginning, but what ended up becoming a private equity deal over the midst of 3 to 4 years. And so in that company, I was acquired in 2021. June of 2021 is when we signed the paperwork, actually right here in Oklahoma, out in Tulsa. And the year prior, they had done $102 million in cumulative business across 13 offices, which was pretty impressive for a guy that was basically doing, less than $5 million a year. We were doing like $4.5 million in 2020. And so I was like, I want to see what big business feels like. I want to be able to have on my resume the idea of what does it look like to go through an acquisition, and to be able to just ultimately see what it looked like inside of a $100 million operation. And what I saw was essentially a business that went from $102 million in 2020 to $84 million in 2021 to $46 to $48 million in 2022, and they closed all of their doors last year on all 13 offices. So the model I'm going to show you guys today is what I was exposed through being a part of that group, getting in the rooms with some of the monarchs in the commercial industry. Some of you guys know who Tremco is, Garland, Tecta, Centimark, and they don't all run the exact same across the country. There's some offices that are way more efficient than the others, but it's the model that they strive to go for. And so the guys that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars every single year in commercial roofing, I guess into the billions, right? If we're talking Centimark and Tecta America, this is exactly what they strive to do. Okay? And so with that being said, if you guys actually, real quick, just so I can get a pulse on the room, who here is already doing commercial work? Okay? And leave your hand up if you have service and maintenance agreements. All right, and give me a show of hands if you guys are just getting started in commercial roofing. Okay, leave your hands up if you're primarily focused on multifamily rather than low slope. I knew you were. All right, cool. Well, that'll help me as we get into this thing, all right? So the most profitable roofing companies in the world, they're not just selling, roof replacements. They're not just chasing insurance claims. They're not chasing storms all over the country. And they're not out. How many of you guys get those emails that say, hey, submit a bid, or hey, we're looking for people to bid on this opportunity? Yeah, probably all of us. And so they're not chasing those general contractors around to do that, and they're not experiencing long sales cycles like so many people complain about in the commercial roofing industry. They're doing something different. And the best way that I can depict it is I tried to give all of you guys an actual handout for this, because just for the record, I want this to be a workshop. Yeah, I want you guys to actually come in here. We're going to actually put some work in, and you're going to leave with something, which is I'll walk you through the audit here in just a moment. If you guys want a sermon, if you want someone to talk to you, I think that's going on just in a few minutes or in a few hours over here on the main stage. But we're going to work through what we call the life cycle monetization method. And so the idea here is that, like you and I, the roof has a life cycle, okay? And on average, I think there's tons of different roof systems, but on average, I think it's safe to say that a roof lasts somewhere around 20 to 25 years. And so no matter whether that roof is brand new, or whether the roof is needing replaced, or it's somewhere in the middle, we always want to piggyback a maintenance agreement to that, because we know that the roof is the day we walk that roof is the best shape that roof's ever going to be in until the day it gets replaced, okay? And then guess what? The roof cycle starts all over again. And so today, like I said, I'm going to show you how to grow the commercial division with what we call a commercial sales machine. But first, you need to know that if you make money with roof replacements, that service and maintenance, or repairs and maintenance, is going to be the rocket fuel to just do more of that. Is there anyone here in the room that has the depiction that like repairs suck and maintenance is small peanuts? This guy? All right. There's probably more than just you. So the first thing I want to do, mostly for this guy here in the front row, is that I want to prove why you need to do more repairs and why you need to open your mind to maintenance, okay? And then once I convince you guys on why this is literally the sickest model when it comes to an actual business model, we'll talk about how you guys can do it, okay? So 3 reasons why service and maintenance is the most conducive model to growing a roofing business. And it's not even just the commercial roofing business. We have a ton of companies that steal our model, that license our model for the residential roofing company and multifamily. But we're going to talk about growth models, which is how most roofing companies are growing versus the compounding growth model. We'll talk about what service does for your total available market, and then why it's going to allow you to dominate your specific market. Does anyone here follow Alex Hormozi or know who Alex Hormozi is? Okay, so we're a part of the acquisition container, meaning that my company and my employees get trained by the Hormozis and their leadership team. One of the most profound ideas that Alex and Layla have brought to us is that there's only 2 ways to grow a business. Number 1, we can get more customers, duh. And number 2 is that we can get more money from each customer, all right? But most companies, most people here at this conference are growing by just getting more customers. They do a job, they chase a job, they do a job, and then they move on to the next one and chase the next rabbit. And they reset. What that means is essentially every January, we're resetting the sales scoreboard to 0. All right? If you ask somebody what their sales goal is, they're going to say 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, 50 million, but they're talking about from January to December because they're resetting the scoreboard. And so what that looks like tangibly is that in January, again, we have 0. Just for ease of conversation, let's say over the course of the year, we sell 100 deals. Well, in January, guess what? We're back to 0, and we've got to climb that mountain all over again. But if we want to double the business, we have to sell 200 contracts. And if we want to double the business again, we have to sell 400 and 800 and 1,600. And that's the only way in a transactional model that we can actually double the business. So when we're doing that, we're forced to become world-class at marketing and sales, right? If we want to grow a 10, 20, $50 million roofing company, we have to get pretty damn good at marketing and sales, right? And that's why these companies, most companies, become marketing and sales organizations rather than roofing companies. What they forget, though, is that it's not just marketing and sales that has to double. It's the cash, it's the people, the resources, and the systems. And that's why you guys see, is everyone here familiar with the Roofing Contractors Top 100? We were a part of the Top 100 too, and guess what? We're out of business, right? The roll-up that I was a part of, they're out of business. 13 offices out of business because they didn't understand that as the marketing and sales had to grow, the cash, the people, the resources, the systems, and the processes also had to grow, okay? So we call this the soul-sucking roofing model. Alternatively, we can opt to do both, right? It's not that it's either or, it's not binary. It's that we want more customers and we want to keep them around for a long period of time so that we can continue to service them, we can do more work for them, and we can also earn referrals from their network. It's what the best companies in the world do, okay? Alternative to the chart that looked just like this is exactly how we operate. You sell 100 contracts this year, and we put all of them on a maintenance agreement. I'll explain the two types of service agreements to you guys here in a minute. There's some paid options and there's some free options. But nonetheless, next January, so from 2024 to 2025, oh shit, in January we still have 100 customers. And then in order to double our business, we just have to climb the same mountain that we did last year. We don't have to go to the extreme and you know, terrorize our people by trying to double our marketing and sales, okay? And so 10 years down the road, we still 10x our business or more, but we can do it manageably, right? We can do it through, we can grow all of these organically and at a manageable rate and still 10x, 20x, 30x our business over time, but still just climbing that same mountain over and over again, okay? That's the growth models, right? Transaction model versus a compounding model. Any questions around that? This is a workshop, so I said we're gonna get some stuff done. Yes, sir.
On the public side, commercial, allowed to sell those maintenance agreements to public?
Yes. Who in here has service agreements with schools, municipalities, or like state? 3 guys in the back. Yeah. Also works for new construction. So we are not advocates for doing new construction. We feel like it's a hard business to scale. We also don't do public work or any type of specified bid work. Everything we do is focused on re-roofs. How can we get the re-roof work? And we do that with service and maintenance. It does not mean that you can't sell, like he had a great question. His question was, can you sell service agreements to, you know, after doing public work or new construction? And the simple answer is yes, okay? You'll understand why here in just a moment. So the next idea I want to share with you guys is what we call TAM, total available market. So the average life cycle of a roof is what I told you guys earlier. It's 25 years. So if we look at the chart I gave you guys, the A, B, C, D, F, which I got from a good buddy of mine named Brian, who ran a beautiful company out of South Florida. What I realized is that the average life cycle of a roof is about 25 years. And if that's true, right, if we say, okay, theoretically that makes sense, that means that over the course of today to 25 years from now, so to 2050, every roof in our market is going to need replaced. And if we divvy that up just to talk again through conversation, that's about 4 to 5% every year of our market that needs replacement. Meaning that it's this little tiny sliver over here, okay? That's 100% of our market. That's the 4%, okay? But what's interesting is that while only 4% of the market needs replaced, all of those black roofs need service and maintenance and repairs and all of that type of work, okay? And the reason why is essentially because the membrane, the tile, the panels, the shingles all might last that 25 years, but the caulkings and the sealants and the flashings and the terminations and the terminations, the pipe jacks, the everything else that goes along with it, all of the byproducts of the roof will not last 25 years, okay? So with service, meaning repairs and maintenance work and coatings, we're able to take this, right, the 4%, and we're able to capture 100% of the market. Every roof we walk becomes a viable, monetizable sale. All right, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Make sense? Cool. So I mentioned a friend of mine named Brian. His son's back here doing all of the media for us. And he's one of my nerdiest friends, one of my nerdiest roofing friends. So when I have an idea about the 4% of the market being available, and I wake up at 4 in the morning and need somebody to talk to, this is the guy I talk to. And what we realized through conversation back and forth is that not only is the available market for service work 24 times the opportunity for re-roofs, right? 96 black roofs to 4 red roofs, 24 times the size. But when you break down the actual profit of service versus the re-roof, this is what it looks like. So sake of conversation, we're going to use these margins. So across the nation, what we typically see is about 30%, 30 to 40% on the re-roof side, 65% bare minimum on repairs, and 80% on maintenance agreements. That's gross margins. And some of you guys are like, got to pump those numbers up, right? Rookie numbers. But just bear with me, because what we see is that for every dollar we do in service work, again, repairs and maintenance, is that we get a return of $3 to $4 on re-roof projects. Meaning that in a $5 million revenue company, a $5 million roofing company, with the revenue divided up as $4 million in re-roof and $1 million in service and maintenance, you'll find a nice surprise, because even though it's a fourth of the revenue, it's more than half of the profit in a $5 million company, okay? So that's the growth models. We've got compounding model versus transactional model. Transactional model means we just go get new customers after new customer after new customer. Total available market means we're going from the 4% to the 96% plus the 4%, so we're capturing 100% of the market. Now let's talk about market domination. So this was an epiphany that I had after I read Uncle Charlie's Almanac. Is everyone here familiar with Berkshire Hathaway? One of the biggest investment holding groups of all time. And this is what I learned. So the most profitable reason for a service and maintenance agreement roofing model, and why it completely crushes every other model, is because of these simple numbers. So let's talk about a $20,000 roofing project. For some of you guys, that's a repair. For some of you guys right now, that's an average job ticket. Maybe that's like a replacement, okay? So it doesn't matter what type of project this is. We're just talking about a $20,000 project in general. And so if your gross margins are 40%, it's about $8,000, right? Not bad. But what if, on top of that, you also locked that client into a $2,000 a year service agreement, where you aim for 80% profit margins? That basically means that over the next 10 years, right, you do the $20,000 job, and then you service this guy for, service this building or these people for the next 10 years. That client is worth an extra $16,000. But that is without including any of the repairs that are going to come up. That's without any of the additional work that you're going to get referred from serving that guy. And so what happens is that client's worth an extra $16,000 in gross profit before additional scopes. I kind of got ahead of myself here. Before additional scopes of work from your inspection findings when you're walking the roof every single year, and suddenly that customer becomes worth triple the amount. So the original $8,000, which was your 40% gross margin on the front end, plus the $16,000 that you're getting in recurring revenue. And I didn't even add in all the repairs, okay? So it's pretty cool. Changes everything, because and it's not just the money, but when your client is worth 3 times as much to you. Raise your hand if you're from Oklahoma here. Okay. When your client is worth 3 times as much as that guy, or yours is worth 3 times as much as these people, you gain a massive advantage, because this is what happens. You can spend more money to acquire clients, right? So if you know that this client is worth $24,000 to us and it's worth $8,000 to Kevin over here, you can outmarket them, you can out-advertise them, and you can also outgrow them because you can pay more for your people. You can basically leverage the cash for whatever it takes to grow the company, okay? And so it's what Warren Buffett calls scale economics, all right? If you guys are interested in that, you can go read the book. And so again, when you make more per client, you can aggressively reinvest into growth while your competitors are stuck playing defense. They can't afford to market at scale. They can't afford to hire the best people, and they cannot afford to dominate in their city. And so if you want to beat this guy or that guy or that guy or that guy or that guy, this might be for you guys, okay? And that's why service and maintenance is, to me, the craziest model, and honestly, probably one of the biggest secrets that the Titans, the Centimarks, the Tecta Americas, the Nation's Roof, the, you guys name it, right? Garland, the Tremcos of the world, they don't tell anyone this stuff, okay? Yeah, so if you're not going to do this, you might be a little insane. So let's get into the actual nitty-gritty of how we do this. Any questions before we get into the, what you got?
If you sell this 10-year, 2000, and you go back and charge the customer for the actual work,
Yeah.
is there a big objection at that point where you're like, hey, here's another additional bill for $2,000?
If you give me 2 minutes, that's the first thing I'm talking about. So, what's your name?
Preston.
Preston asked the question. He said, hey, if you sell somebody a preventative maintenance agreement for $2,000 a year, and then on your inspection you go out there and you say, hey, there's some additional work that needs done on this roof, are they going to say, well, what do I pay you the $2,000 for? I'll explain that here in just a moment, okay? All right, so when we're looking at the front end of a business, which is the first thing we look at every time a company comes into my container, we look at three main things. And the ultimate goal of these three things are going to be, does this get us new customers? And does this allow us to get more money from each customer? Okay? First one is, how do we get the leads? Second one is, how do we convert the leads into actual contracts? And the third one is, how do we retain those customers? Pretty self-explanatory. As a reminder, every roof you climb is going to be brand new. It's going to be at the end of its life, or it's going to be somewhere in the middle. And we use what's called, Preston, this is the answer to your question here in just a moment. This is called a two-tiered service model. So we have preventative maintenance agreements, and we have master service agreements. Can anyone help me out and explain what a PMA is, what a preventative maintenance agreement is? Kevin?
Yeah. So doing annual preventative maintenance, taking care of what the manufacturer requires to keep that it's obvious.
How many of these did you have?
Just over 7,000 a year.
So for those of you guys that couldn't hear Kevin, he said a preventative maintenance agreement is exactly what it sounds like. You're doing preventative maintenance. I'm going to tell you guys a quick story really quick. Is there anyone here that's from the automotive industry? Okay. The automotive industry did this really well. If I go buy a brand new truck today off the lot, they'll probably sell me a bumper-to-bumper warranty, right? They'll hit me for another $3,000 or $4,000 before I even leave the dealership. But when I pull off the lot, it's still my responsibility. The warranty doesn't cover the oil changes, the tire rotations, the wiper blades that need to be swapped out, and a roof is the exact same way. It has its own set of wheels that need to be rotated, or tires that need to be rotated. It has its oil changes. It has all of the components that need to be taken care of on a yearly basis. If you guys use GeoCell 2300, what's the lifespan of that? Does anyone know? 3 to 5 years. So we're putting a 50-year roof on, but we're using GeoCell to or name whatever, right? Any type of sealant. They have a 3 to 5 year window typically. And so it's like we're putting a 50-year roof on, but we're going to put a 3 to 5 year sealant on it and then never do maintenance. So that's what a preventative maintenance agreement does. That's what the $2,000 is for, okay? It's for taking care of the preventative maintenance agreement. Now, there's a world where people don't want to pay $2,000 a year. And a lot of times it's more prevalent in the multifamily space. So raise your hand again if you're doing multifamily work, HOAs, condos, apartment complexes. Yeah, those guys, if you think about the dynamic of the multifamily world. It's a syndication. It's a group of investors pooling their money together to go buy these massive, what's up, buddy? To go buy these massive apartment complexes. So they pull together $10 million, and guess what? They're responsible to their investors to get to squeeze every penny out of that. So the last thing what they want to do is pay Preston $2,000 a year for that. So for those people, because we still want to be on their roof every year, we just look at it from a reactive standpoint, and we say, okay, they're not going to pay us to be preventative. They're going to drive their car until they hear the ticking in the motor, and then they're going to bring it into us so that we can work on it, and that's totally okay. That's what we call a master service agreement, and we're just going to be responsive to anything they need. We're also going to be proactive in the way that we're going to go walk their roof every year and let them know, hey, look, you're not paying us right now, but here's an estimate for what needs to be done to get ahead of it. But that's what we call the two-tiered service agreement, okay? So this strategy essentially ensures that whether somebody wants to pay for maintenance or not, we're in front of them every year, okay? And that's the first part of what I'm going to share with you guys. You guys tracking? Does that make sense? Okay. Let's get into how do we, actually, I'll tell you what. Does everybody here, is there anybody that does not have an audit sheet? Can one of my team members hook these guys up? He's already a master. He's got it. All right, cool. You guys good? Everybody has an audit now. What we're going to do here is, so the three parts that I talked about, right, if I was to jump back a slide, the lead generation, the sales, and the service and maintenance, what I've done is I've created a checklist for all three of those for you guys to know exactly what you need to build your own sales machine. And so on the service offer model, what you need to do is you need to, as a team, get together and clearly define what is included in your preventative maintenance agreement, okay? What do they get for $2,000 a year? If you're in the commercial roofer university, obviously you've got this, but you can also, little cheat code, if you're selling GAF or Carlisle or McGuire or whatever other brand of materials, go to them and ask, what should we have on our preventative maintenance agreements? If we're selling your products, what do you want us looking at, okay? Duralast, they helped us out, and they basically built ours for us, 6 years ago. Okay, so the second piece, can you guys hear me okay? All right. The second piece is after your team is crystal clear on what they get with the preventative maintenance agreement, it's clearly defined on what we're selling, just structure your pricing, okay? And I used to do this in a very complex manner. We had these calculators that we would try to get into the nitty gritty. But honestly, what works best for us now is that we just figure out what our cost is to have two guys go out, and we say, hey, what does it cost us for a half day? What does it cost us for a full day? And we just round up and we say, hey, if we think we could walk this roof and do the preventative maintenance in a couple hours, boom, half a day, okay? So it'd be, if I had two guys, they were $300 a day. If they could work, if I knew that they were gonna do it in a half day, it's like, okay, my costs are gonna be $300. I might charge $1,200 for that visit, okay? If I wanted 80% margins. So two things, clearly defined offer. What are we actually offering for preventative maintenance agreements? What are we doing in the master service agreements? And how do we price for those things, right? Master service agreements are typically free in the way that I talk about them. And let's get into the lead generation. How am I on time? Can somebody help me out? I've got 15. All right, put your running shoes on. Here we go. So quick disclaimer before we start talking about marketing, before anyone wants to come up here and beat me up on stage, because you probably could. It's true that doing good work for a good price can and will sell itself. I have nothing against that. But I do think that if this guy over here does better marketing and sales than you, it doesn't matter if you're a better roofer, if you have better workmanship and craftsmanship, he's going to outsell you, okay? If he does more money-making activities than your team does, he's going to outsell you. But I think it's a double entendre where it should be, we're doing better marketing and sales and better craftsmanship, just for the record, okay? 4 ways to get on roofs. We can pursue opportunities, we can attract opportunities, we can pay for opportunities, and we can do what's called an earn and return. There's a lot of freaking noise on the other side of these walls with all the marketing. You can spend money on SEO and ads and every other sexy thing that they have out there with AI. But when I need to distill all the noise and figure out where is the signal, it's like we can attract leads. It's these 4 buckets. Attracting leads is like holding up a magnet and attracting the clients to you. That's things like website, SEO, and content creation, for a few examples. You can pay for leads, which is meta ads, YouTube ads, pay per click, LSA, all the things there, okay? My favorite, we can pursue leads. We can apex predator this thing, and we can call them, we can knock on their doors, we can walk into their buildings, we can send DMs through LinkedIn, or we can send emails. And my second favorite is what the service and maintenance department does for us. It brings us recurring revenue or reoccurring revenue and referrals. It breaks open people's networks, okay? So where do I start? Well, I'll tell you, I wouldn't start with attraction marketing in commercial roofing, because how many times have you guys walked into a property manager's office or you talk to a building owner and he's like, I've got a guy, right? I've got a guy. Well, of course they do. They're professionals. They're in the B2B space, and everybody has buddies, or they're in a networking group. Of course they have a guy. So it's not to say that they're never going on Google and searching for a commercial roofer. It's just a lot more rare than a homeowner going on Google and searching for a roofer, okay? So I would not start there. I also believe that success leaves clues, right? First self-development conference I ever went to like 16 years ago was Tony Robbins. And the first thing he said when he gets on stage is success leaves clues. So let's look at the most successful commercial roofing companies in the world. Tecta, right? When we're talking revenue, Tecta, Centimark, Tremco, Garland, all the guys I've been talking about. Do you see them dancing on Facebook ads? No. Do you see them running, if they do paid, they might do a little bit of paid Google, but like relative to doing $1 billion in roofing, they're not spending money on paid advertising, okay? So if success leaves clues and we're gonna do something different, what should we do? I think we should do pursuit marketing and earn and return, meaning that if we, that's funny because these are backwards. So the ugly roof strategy should be on the other side. And I actually have these workbooks for all of you guys when you leave here today. So if you are going to pursue opportunities, if you're like, hey, we would love to walk into buildings, or we would like to cold call on people, then I have the exact scripts, the entire playbook, and I'll show you exactly everything you need here in just a moment up on the slides. But if you would like to do what's called earn and return, where you have, raise your hand if you have past commercial roofing clients. It's a lot of you guys. And, oh, I'm sorry, please raise your hand one more time if that was you. And if that's you, leave your hand up if you have service agreements on all of those roofs. So you guys are going to want to use the past client reactivation strategy that I give you guys today. It's calling up all of your old roofers, calling up all of your old jobs, whether it was a repair or an inspection, like a paid inspection or an actual replacement, and going back to them, and I show you exactly what to say, hey, we're now doing this service agreement, and here's the benefits to you guys doing that, okay? So it'll help you go back, get your old clients on service agreements so you can keep them around longer, and then when you run out of old clients to go back to, you can transition to the ugly roof strategy, okay? And so where do we start? I think I already spoiled this for you guys. It's like, am I gonna start with the ugly roof, or am I gonna start with the client reactivation? Well, obviously, if you have past clients, you just do the client reactivation first and then transition to the ugly roof strategy. Now, this is here. You guys can take a picture, but the playbooks you're going to get actually have these in it. So what you need for your team, whether you run my lead generation strategies or you have your own, because there's multiple ways to skin the cat, your team needs I show you this slide because your team needs a visual representation so they know what the damn plan is. There's so many companies that come into our world and they're like, Yeah, we do pursuit marketing when they hear me talk about it, but it's random. There's no process that is being followed. They'll call on random signs that they see while they're driving around. If they have a couple hours in the middle of their day, they might stop into a property management company. They might do a random lunch and learn every now and then, but there's no process. So that is the most important piece. Not that you follow my steps, but that you have a visual representation for your team. Next thing is, when your team starts generating leads, you don't want them to forget about them. So they should be tracked in a CRM, but most CRMs don't have, like, unless you're in a Go High Level or a HubSpot or a whatever, they don't give you, like, who here is on like Job Nimbus, AccuLinks, one of the industry softwares? Okay, so like, you guys know that those are usually for like once you have a lead, right? Those are like once you have an opportunity. You need a pipeline for all of the people that you're trying to work to get an opportunity with, okay? You've got to track those. And don't let that scare you though, because we have, I was gonna say hundreds, but at least tens of offices that are just tracking all of this in a Google Sheet. So you put in the prospect's information, and then whatever your process is that you want your team following, okay? So I'll give you guys a sample one of those. But what I say is that when you have the process for your team to know what to do, right? That was the workflow. Then you have a process or a way to track all of the leads. The next thing you need to do is track what are the levels of activity that my team is actually putting effort into doing this strategy, and we create end-of-day reports. So most companies won't track their daily inputs. They'll just get to the end of the month or the end of the quarter or the end of the year and say, well, shit, we didn't hit our goal, but they don't know why. But I'll tell you, if you do end-of-day reports and end-of-day tracking, just like for those, is there anyone here that runs canvassing teams on the residential side, like door-to-door? Nope, nobody else? Okay. Well, you guys track metrics like this, right? It's no different in commercial. We want to track the daily metrics of what our team's doing so we know why or why not we're actually getting the leads that we want. And if you guys want all of this stuff, that is our phone number. Text that phone number, your name, and which playbook you need, and my team will just send you the link to it. Okay? I was gonna make a QR code. I forgot to do it this morning, so. All right, that's service and maintenance. That's how we get leads, whether you're just getting started or you've been doing this forever. How much time do I have? Okay. The last piece is, how do we actually convert these opportunities? Real quick, look at your audit sheet. Do we have a process defined, right? That's the workflow. Do we have a playbook built? Do we have scripts, which are in those playbooks I'm gonna give you guys? So yes, you will have the scripts. Do we have pipeline tracking, and do we have a daily scorecard, yes or no? All right, let's get into the sales. Most of you guys have a leaky bucket as a representation of your sales process, meaning that you are rushing into quoting jobs. So you get a lead from a commercial opportunity and you say, holy shit, it's been 3 weeks since we had a commercial opportunity. This is awesome. Let's go give this guy a bid. But that's not your job, okay? I'll explain to you what to do alternatively in just a moment. But alternatively to just running out and feeling like you need to put a bid together, they're also letting leads slip through the cracks, because if a deal doesn't close within the first 2 or 3 weeks, they're already chasing the next opportunity, and they don't have a system for follow-up or recycling the leads like a master service agreement. But the best roofing companies are diagnosing the client's real needs before they offer a solution. So they're figuring out, is this a service opportunity? Or is this a re-roof opportunity? Or is it a coatings opportunity? They close the deal faster by having a process for monetization for each channel. That's what I gave you guys. That's the ABCDF, okay? We can monetize every roof we walk. As long as it's a customer you want to work with, we can literally monetize every single roof. And that's monetize. And then the third one is monetizing every lead, whether it's today, next month, or next year, by just recycling our leads with the master service agreements. This is my sales process. Okay, it's a 6-stage sales process, and I already told you guys about what L is. That's the lead generation. Appointment prep. There's you guys will also get this, but if you want to take a picture of this, this is it's kind of hard to see on there. Appointment preparation means that my reps are physically going to be prepared. They're going to have their drone batteries charged, their infrared thermal cameras charged. They're going to not show up without their worksheets that they need to walk the roof. They're going to be prepared for the damn appointment. Guess what? The rep needs to be prepared, but the client also needs to be prepared. So I'm going to send 3 to 5 emails, depending on how much time we have between the first appointment. And I'm going to teach that prospect how to think about their roof. They are going to understand the A, B, C, D, F. Your roof is somewhere on this scale before I ever come out there, so that they can understand that we want to extend the life of their roof. That is our ultimate goal as a roofer, is to extend the life of their roof. And just so happens that's going to make us more money over time, right? So let's get into the third letter, which is D. That's discovery. This is the fulcrum of what collapses time in the commercial roofing sales process. And so in discovery, we dive deep into problems. We ask, what have they done before to try to solve their issues? What is their desired outcome? Are they looking for a Band-Aid or a permanent solution? And what is the cost of inaction? What happens if they don't say yes to our proposal today? Do their tenants keep getting wet? Does their equipment keep getting wet? Do their employees keep getting dripped on? What is the actual issue? Is there something I learned from my buddy Kevin here? Are they going to get mold in their multifamily property and then end up getting sued down the road? Right? Isn't that something you lean into? Yeah, so right, the pain isn't that like, oh, we have a leak over here. The pain is the repercussions from that actual leak, okay? And we need to lean into that. The way we do it is by asking discovery questions. Who here has watched Wolf of Wall Street before? Anyone studied baseline selling, Sandler selling, the Challenger sale, any of those? They all have one thing in common, and that is that the only way to make a sale is to get the customer to trust you, your company, and the solution that you're proposing. In order to knock down those 3 dominoes, there are 10 buying signals. There's things that they need to think, that they need to say, or they need to feel. And here's those 10 buying signals. They have to admit that there's a problem. They have to feel the problem is costing them. They've had to have tried something that didn't work. They have to visualize a better outcome. My people are getting wet. I would like for them not to get wet. They confirm that they want to fix it now. So it's like, hey, Preston, is this a right now thing, or are you guys just planning for the springtime? Okay? And if they're planning for the springtime, that's okay. They have to admit that the cost of waiting is high. Oh, why is that an issue if your people keep getting wet? Why is that an issue if the installation's getting wet? Oh, mold, what does that do? Right? We're asking those types of questions. They have to trust you as an advisor. They have to believe in the process. They have to understand the real root cause. And if the more signals that they feel, say, or believe, the closer you are to getting them to believing in you, believing in your company, and believing in your solution. And all of those sales processes I just talked to you about, they all say the same shit, okay? So most roofers don't understand the theory of extending the life of a roof. Who here heard new information today? Who has never seen the roof life cycle, and that's a new theory for you guys, okay? Well, guess what? It is for building owners too. So the job is explaining that to them, okay? That there's a life cycle. Your roof is somewhere here, and we're going to extend the life of your roof for you. That's the job, okay? Then we diagnose the roof. We grade the roof, A, B, C, D, F, and then we align with the client. When we diagnose the roof, we do something called a conditions report. The goal of the conditions report, anybody, what is it? To give us a damn grade, okay? That's it. We walk the roof to figure out, is it an A or an F? And then we want to understand that, like, we're not here to fix the immediate problem. We're looking at the whole roof as a system, not to do a full-blown takeoff. We just want to know what grade the roof is so we can have a conversation. In our conditions report, these are what we're looking at. What is the roof type and what type of decking does it have? What are the drainage systems? Does it have gutters or internal drains? Are there ponding issues? What's the field conditions? Is the roof cracking? Is there vegetation? Is there wear and tear? What's the circumstances of the flashings and penetrations and the overall system, okay? Here's how we define an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F. That's what they actually mean. It's not scientific. This is my depiction. It might not be your guys. So this is a place to start, but everybody's is a little bit different. Key moment here. If I'm doing a conditions report, again, I'm not doing a full-blown inspection. I'm not measuring every piece of flashing. I'm not measuring all the terminations. I'm just trying to understand, is the roof an A through an F? But if it's a D or an F, and I'm coming down to talk to the customer, you need to have a price sheet. Hey, ballpark, this is a $2 million roof. Ballpark, is it in it? Is it in the ballpark? Can you guys handle that? This roof needs to be replaced. Should I go back up there and spend 3 days doing a takeoff on this thing? If they say no, then it's like, okay, well, let's pivot. Because if it's if we need to try to get the roof from a D back to a C, let's figure out what we need to do, okay? So when you come down from the roof to talk about the conditions report that you filled out, here's the checklist. Here's what we're going over. The roof grade, we want to have videos and photos so that we can show them what we're talking about. No one cares what TPO versus PVC is. So we don't need to talk about technical jargon. We just need to say, this is good, this is bad, okay? They don't give a shit about if it's a 60 mil or an 80 mil. And then budgetary pricing, all right? In the alignment conversation, we're basically saying your roof needs to be replaced, or it needs to be coated, or we can repair it. But again, no matter what happens, here, do me a favor, pull out your phones. I'm gonna have you guys take pictures of these because I've got to wrap up here in a minute. So when we're having that direction and alignment conversation, this is the checklist. This is what I walk into. If I'm walking into this guy's office over here to have a conversation about the roof, this is what I'm walking in with. This is how the conversation goes if it's an A, B, or a C. This is what it looks like if the roof needs to be replaced. And so again, we're at a fork in the road. Does the roof need replaced, or are we doing service work? No matter what though, we are going to book a meeting from every meeting. There's going to be a lot of information in this proposal. I don't want to leave it up to you to analyze on your own. When can we get back to go over this? Oh, the decision maker's in Atlanta and we're in OKC? Cool, no big deal. When can we hop on a Zoom meeting? It's 2026, guys. We're not emailing shit over, okay? E stands for estimates and proposals. Most of you guys can put numbers to the jobs, all right? So I don't need to go too far into that. The last step of the sales framework is revenue or recycling. You know what that means? It means that we are closing a deal for revenue, meaning that we're doing a repair, we're doing a restoration, we're doing a replacement, and no matter what we sell, we are attaching a maintenance agreement to it, because why would we give you a warranty on a roof that's already going to be failing after the first couple years? Okay, so of course you're getting a maintenance agreement. But if we don't get revenue, we want to recycle the opportunity. And if we're recycling the opportunity, this is what it looks like, okay? So up in the top left corner, you see lead generated. We prep for the appointment. We prep the prospect for the appointment. We do our discovery. Can you guys see that? We do discovery. We do the roof diagnosis. And then we're at a decision diamond. So those 2 diamonds that are on the left side of the screen are our decision diamonds. Does it need replaced? Does it need repaired? And guess what? If that job doesn't move forward, does not move forward further to the right on this, it moves down to recycle it with the master service agreement. And we're back on that roof. If Preston, I'll use you because you're in the front row. If you say, hey, look, man, I just can't get the decision makers together. We can't get this going on. I'm going to say, Preston, no big deal. Here's what I want to do. I'm gonna share this master service agreement with you. All this means is that if you have an issue before we make a decision on moving forward on these repairs or this replacement or whatever, I want you to call me because I'm your go-to guy. We'll be here within 24 hours, no matter what your issue is. And guess what? If I don't hear from you in 90 days, 180 days, whatever it is for you guys, I'm going to be back out on this roof because I want to stay in front of this. I know that these roofing issues are not going to get magically better. Preston's not going to pull out his wand and like wave it over the roof and just have it get better. It's only going to get worse. So we're back on that roof in 90 days or 180 days, and we're recycling the lead. We're recycling the opportunity. That's it. That's all I got for you guys.
Good job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.